This is a film study to focus on Aidan Hutchinson's performance in the Detroit Lions come from behind win 34-27 over the New York Giants in Week 12. I've already kind of discussed the overtime sack, the knockout blow, if you will, taking Jameis Winston down on the 4th and 5 to finish the victory and push the Lions to 7-4. This video is going to focus on a series of, I think, 13 plays that kind of leads up to that, and then we'll cover that final sack one more time. I'll spot shadow Hutchinson in yellow pretty much before each play. If you're new to my content, the blue line just illustrates where the field and boundary is. In this case, the short side of the field, the boundary, is to the right, and then the field or the wide side is to the left. The Giants are up 10-7 here. Like I said, I believe this is on the 4th possession. Essentially, you've got a zone read concept where all of the offensive linemen are working in this direction, away from Hutchinson, and Jameis Winston would be reading Hutchinson, just, athletic mismatch here in terms of trying to juke him. Hutchinson doesn't really go for it much at all, and then able to make the tackle on Winston for a really short gain. Not sure about that play call, to be honest with you, from a Giants perspective. I did think that their run game showed some extreme creativity, and one of the, quote, blown coverages later in the game that I'll actually show you here, you can kind of attribute to the design or creativity element that the Giants put forth. Same play from the all-22 angle. Again, it's a zone read, running back downhill. This is, in fact, the proper read for Winston, meaning this is a keep read. Hutchinson stepping down radically. If you give the football, he's going to be able to dive inside on the running back. Having said that, there are times where you want to kind of have the running back cross the quarterback's face a little bit more and veer off in this direction to create a little bit more conflict. It can change the angle and perhaps the actual decision-making process on the read. As it stands, a solo tackle for Aidan Hutchinson. Still in that same possession, we're on to a 3rd and 8. I believe this is a touchdown pass to Hodgins in the back of the end zone. This is the Lions' 3+1 rush. It's been working well for them in 2025. It does not here. It's rather easy for the right guard to find work. I don't think that Hutchinson is winning this rep on a speed rep on the outside, against the right tackle anyway. But because you're only rushing 3, it allows the interior offensive lineman to find work a whole lot easier and more reliably. It's a really nice throw, I think, by Winston in the back of the end zone, allowing the wide receiver to elevate over the top of, I think that's Arthur Millette, who at this point has since been released. I'm not criticizing the 3-man rush because it's been effective for the Lions so far this season. I think in certain cases it's helped keep athletic or mobile quarterbacks in the pocket or restrict them from having an impact with their legs. In this case, there's just too much time in this Giants game often. Hutchinson got 6 quarterback hits. He got the ultimate sack in overtime to finish it. He needs a rush partner as a defensive end on the other side. Aleem McNeil and the defensive tackles are playing well. In fact, we'll kind of cover their impact and their contribution throughout the course of this video. But to me, there's just too much time on Sunday for Jameis Winston to deliver the football. In this case, it generates another touchdown and puts him up 17-7. Moving to the 5th possession, and this is a very creative and somewhat unique run scheme. So it's split zone. Split zone typically means the running back is working in the same direction as the offensive line. So you can see the running back and the offensive line are both working right to left. But the tight end and or fullback is going to go in the opposite direction, hence the term or the phrase split. Having said that, along with that split zone concept is what I would refer to as an arc release by this tight end / fullback. So he's going to veer outside of Aidan Hutchinson. And what that does, or what it can do, I should say, is cause the defensive end edge defender to hesitate. And then the split zone, the kick out by 85, could widen you up a little bit more. It doesn't actually do that here. There's a pretty big lane, to be honest with you, for the running back to go through. Alex Anzalone is totally unblocked, but another aspect of this that I think is important to mention, with the tight end releasing to the outside of Hutchinson, what that does is it forces someone to cover him. In this case, it's Brian Branch. Anzalone, again, unblocked, I should say. So he's generally not going to miss this tackle, but you can see it's a complete one-on-one, very short gain on the play. Nice job by Anzalone, like I said, while he was unblocked. I love the variation on the split zone concept by adding the arc release to it as well. 2 plays later here, both teams are absolutely in competitive mode on this 3rd and 1. It's a 14 personnel group, so there's 4 tight ends on the field. For the Giants, 1 running back. It's pretty obvious what's coming here. It's a run concept. I'm going to refer to this as superpower. It's not actually superpower out of the double wing. If you're unfamiliar with that concept, what it normally means is the quarterback will turn and toss the ball to the running back and then actually go lead block on the play. The definition of superpower for me is adding another blocker in the case of a quarterback, but I'm trying to get away with calling this superpower here because, number one, you're pulling the backside tight end / H-back, which is 84, and the backside guard 74 as well. They're getting a whole bunch of lead blockers there. Aidan Hutchinson really stands up here at the point of attack with number 82. The front side tight end, and then you've got a heck of a take on by Brian Branch with 84. Both of those guys coming from depth. It's a big collision. And like I said, these guys are competing, the entire group, because there's pushing and shoving, at the end of the play to try to, A, for the Giants' perspective, gain the 1 yard, and B, for the Lions, deny it. In fact, Detroit was successful here and forced a punt. I'll show you the same play from the all-22 angle. Really, all Aidan Hutchinson does here is, quote, set the edge, force the run concept to go to the inside. But Branch from depth is going to insert underneath or inside of that gap created by Hutchinson. And then he's going to collision 84. You can see 84 from depth, and then Branch from his depth. It's going to be a huge shot between those two guys. 84 ends up maybe a little bit of extracurricular at the end of the play, trying to stay on Branch when everyone else is pretty much done playing football. But, those guys are competing, all of them, and trying to make sure that they can get the first down. I'm not sure that what 84 is actually doing here at the end would be considered competitive, whether it's something that should be penalized or not. I really don't care. Just pointing it out to you that both of these teams were fired up to try to stop, from the Lions' perspective, to try to stop the Giants, which they did and forced a punt. Ensuing possession is still in the second quarter, and you're going to get an outside zone or stretch. Whether you want to call it, wide zone or not, I don't care. It's a sweep path, and it's at Aidan Hutchinson. So the tight end is going to step to Hutchinson, number one. Number two, McNeil here on the inside is going to be able to redirect, basically show great contact balance. His head ends up to the inside for a moment. I'm talking about McNeil here. And then he'll work and get his head back over into this gap. Hutchinson, one more time, like I said, just holding the edge against 84, and then he folds to the inside as well. So you've got really two of your best players from a run defense standpoint, McNeil and Hutchinson, both involved on this play. Same play from the all-22 angle. Hutchinson down here. Boundary side corner, theoretically could get involved in this as well. Running back flips sides. Here's Hutchinson. Here's McNeil. And since Hutchinson stands the tight end up, and there's no expansion at all, even though there's a little bit of a chip from the right tackle. The right tackle is basically trying to push Aidan Hutchinson's hip or midsection and widen him up. I'm talking about right here. Hutchinson able to get that left foot in the ground, screw those cleats into the ground, and then dive back to the inside. Him and McNeil make the play. Like I said, this is a point in time in the game when I think the Giants are kind of trying to set a tone and prove that they can run the football along with generate big plays through the air. Same play, and you're going to get a speed rush against the right tackle here. This is later on in the sixth possession. You can see New York has driven down the field. So this is one-on-one here between him and 72. Of course, there's been a lot of conversation about it. I had a little bit of my own thoughts in the video that I did on Jahmyr Gibbs and Hutchinson on Monday night. You're welcome to check that out if you want to. I'll link it up in the description. So it's a pick by Anzalone on the right guard. And they're trying to get Jack Campbell to loop all the way around and possibly have a free path to the quarterback, Jameis Winston. It's a win by Hutchinson, a clean win here. It's really smooth and quick, if you ask me. Oftentimes, I thought in this game, 72 was faking to put a hand out and then retracting his hand to try to draw out Aidan Hutchinson's move a little bit sooner. In this case, when 72 puts his right hand out there, Hutchinson just swats it down, gets the edge. Clearly a quick win for him and a quarterback hit on an incomplete pass that forces a field goal. We're into the third quarter here, and this is going to be a pass defense or deflected. I think it's by Lopez. But one of the things I noticed earlier on this year was this kind of lowered stance for Hutchinson, and I commented on it a little bit through 3 or 4 weeks. I feel like there's less knee bend in the last couple of games, meaning his backside is a little bit higher than we would like. And what that actually can do sometimes is cause you to pop up a little bit too quickly. I'm not saying that it happens on every rep, nor am I actually, offering to you that it occurs here. This is a spin move that the right tackle, picks up smoothly. It looks like a possibility of an overload blitz. You do have Anzalone lined up over the tight end into the boundary. Lopez, like I said, gets the pass defense here. This spin move by Hutchinson kind of gets swallowed up. I feel like sometimes in this game when I'm watching it, he's not gaining ground with that first step because he's popping up. This one's actually a little bit better than some of the others. He's popping up, almost immediately instead of gaining ground. I'm talking about pass rush situations, right? When it's a run play, and you got to be a little bit more fundamental. You want your foot to replace your hand, basically. Sometimes on a pass rush move, you want to get that foot out there a little bit more than just replacing that hand. In any case, Lopez with the pass defense. Look, the defensive tackle group, they played great. 19 tackles overall. Lopez led the way with 6, including the TFL. I think Reeder and McNeil had 4 apiece. I think that's one of the reasons why you're getting McNeil lined up as an edge defender sometimes. The Lions, my suspicion is they feel like they have surplus strength at the defensive tackle spot. With Davenport out, who knows what's going on with Josh Pascal. They're just trying to get as many other good football players on the field as possible. I'm not saying that it's what I want them to do for 2026, but given the current roster configuration, the lack of depth and talent at the other edge spot opposite Aidan Hutchinson, I think you guys know my perspective on that. I think it makes sense because they have depth there. They're trying to adapt to what they do have. In any case, tight end to our right-hand side is going to step to Hutchinson, and he's basically swims underneath. It's not successful from the standpoint it doesn't get Hutchinson involved with the play, but I'll tell you what is successful is that it's a 2-for-1. Number one. Number two, Tyleik Williams is winning his rep with the offensive guard, and in fact, once the play develops, the tight end, a third player ends up making contact with Hutchinson. It's not a triple team, but there's 3 different players who've ended up making contact with Hutchinson. Anzalone's unblocked on the play, number 1. Number 2, McNeil crashing down the line of scrimmage, involved with Lopez and Anzalone as well. They're using what they have. Am I saying that it's ideal and it's what we would want them to do? No. What I'd like them to do is be a little bit more strategic and intelligent with some of their draft picks and actually draft an edge defender to try to develop. But in this case, because of what they have at this point, Williams, Reeder, Lopez, McNeil, and others like Lacey, who's a little bit more of a hybrid guy, can play D-end and can play D-tackle. I understand what they're doing, and for what what's on the talent on the roster right now, I think it's what makes the most sense. Truly inexplicable moment here to see Jack Campbell blow a coverage, if you will. Basically, he's responsible for the running back and is unable to pick him up, which is, I can't remember another time this has happened this year, number one. Number two, you got all this ridiculousness by this motion. I mean, I just wholeheartedly reject this type of stuff from the perspective of, do we really need to show that much movement in order to try to figure out the coverage by the defense? But in any case, Campbell is responsible for the running back, and there's some really neat design here, in my opinion. So first part of this is the backside tight end, or X. He's running an extremely shallow drag route. And I think what he's doing is they know or suspect that Jack Campbell or the will linebacker is going to be involved in man. Normally, Anzalone would be here and Campbell would be there. My suspicion is what they're trying to do is blitz Anzalone. So they're dropping Muhammad out and then blitzing Anzalone to be part of the 4-man rush. And so I guess that's the reason why those two guys are switched. But that forces Campbell to go underneath, number one. Number two, you've got the 2 offensive linemen that are responsible for the screen getting out in front of the running back into the boundary. And so because Campbell had to either go underneath of 84 or over the top, I think that the Giants designed this to give those offensive linemen either a quick block on Campbell, like actually occurs here, or an angle to go get him out in space into the boundary, number one. Number two, they've also cleared out the boundary side corner. In this case, it's Arthur Millette. So I think you've got intelligent design here, and it took all of that to make this happen. Out of another 100 reps, I wouldn't expect this to occur with Jack Campbell. You guys know, if you've been watching, my film study videos the last month or so, I think he's playing at an all-pro level. This play here, yes, there's a design element to it. It makes me wonder if the next time the Lions, run something like this, you're not going to see Jack Campbell lined up closer to the line of scrimmage so that this can't happen. Basically, so far this year on third downs in their 3+1, two-man coverage, oftentimes Campbell and Anzalone have been closer to the line of scrimmage, so stuff like this, is a lot more difficult to pull off for the offense. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. It's very surprising to me once I got my hands on the All-22 film really, really late Monday night, by the way. That's why some of these videos are coming out later. The film, if you don't know, was pretty much locked up until I think about 7 or 8 p.m. on Monday night. Not in 100 times, 100 reps would you expect that Campbell would be responsible for the guy who got wide open. But nonetheless, that's how the Giants made it happen. Still on that 9th possession, and we're going to get a zone concept at Hutchinson. Lopez is involved here one more time. Hutchinson's actually going to jump inside here. I don't think he gets credit for the tackle. I think it's a solo tackle for Lopez. So zone concept, right at him. Tight end 84 stepping to him, number one. Number two, the left guard is going to reach Tyleik Williams. So Tyleik Williams basically ends up playing, some people call this a lag technique, underneath of the guard here. And what it allows to occur, or what it causes to occur, is Lopez kind of folds over the top, number one. Along with that, Hutchinson jumps to the inside against 84 late. I mean, Hutchinson is in total control here of 84, can just shed off that block whenever he wants in a violent fashion. Lopez is the guy who gets there. That D-tackle group is playing exceptional. I'm looking forward to seeing them at full strength in the secondary to complement, some of the really good stuff that's happening up front. Although, obviously, against the Giants, they gave up over 500 yards of offense. Another zone concept, this one away from him, to just illustrate, the closing speed and the range that Hutchinson has when he identifies something. In this case, you got all of these linemen on the backside are working up either to the second level or the D-tackle. The running back downhill to his right or angled to his right, and then going to bring it downhill. Violent finish from Hutchinson to explode through the running back's face, finish him off. I think he had 5 or maybe 6 tackles on the day, 1 tackle for loss, along with the quarterback hit, or the sack, and 6 quarterback hits. Same play from the all-22 angle, going to run down the line. Kind of difficult to draw this, like where do I draw this? Behind the heels of the offensive lineman, or where it actually occurs. In addition, you got a really nice rep here on the front side between McNeil. I would say he's almost playing like a defensive end type position. The only thing is, I think this is Barnes lined up to his outside. So you've got base defensive personnel on the field for the Lions, but Barnes set up as an OLB to the boundary. So McNeil winning his rep against 72 clearly, driving him back in the backfield, number one. Inside linebacker stack everything up. Hutchinson comes in and explodes on a running back to finish off the snap. Finally, we've got Hutchinson's lone sack that caps the comeback on a 4th and 5 with about 4.5 minutes left in overtime. I don't feel like he pops up as much as we saw on some of the other reps, but perhaps that's my brain or my mind imagining it. But in any case, it's a 2-high safety structure, a 4-man rush scheme. It's not a 3-man rush like we saw earlier. And Hutchinson's getting upfield. This is pretty much the same speed rush that he used earlier for the win. The quarterback hit on Winston on an incomplete pass on 3rd down. And then McNeil is basically driving the right guard back into the quarterback's lap. So the combination of those 2 rushes is giving Winston, really nowhere to go, number one. Number two, as far as the right tackle's comments that, all I did was basically ride him out of there and he folds back inside to make the sack. It's really a BS commentary, if you ask me, that he gets away with because he was talking to a team reporter for the Giants. So here's where Jameis Winston's foot is, his right foot, his plant foot, just past the 37. And then Aidan Hutchinson's left foot, which is as far back, that's the most depth that he gets, isn't even on the 38. So you didn't ride him out of there. He beat you on an outside rush again and then folded back inside because, number one, he's got a better motor and more agility than you do, and he stays with the play. Basically, he's not going to stop playing football on a 4th and 5, essentially with the game on the line. I think you're just talking about a guy who, a little bit of sour grapes, in my opinion, in that situation. And he did play well. I did think the right tackle played well. Watching the game live, I didn't get the sense that Hutchinson had as much impact throughout the 4 quarters and overtime as I did once I got my hands on the All-22 and the end zone angle film. Like I said, it was a little bit later on Monday night than usual. But in any case, here's the end zone angle of the same play. Again, you got the bull rush by McNeil. One of his better pass rush moves on the night is just taking the right guard, walking him, almost kind of forklifting him back. You can see the upper body. He's almost tilting back a little bit. But we're focusing on Aidan Hutchinson, how he makes this happen. The right tackle kind of stabs with his outside arm. Hutchinson tries to rip, and he's able to dip enough to get through here. I think the right tackle recognizes right about now, if I keep holding, which he is, but there's an amount of holding or a length of time such that it's generally not going to be called. And he realized I had to let go at a certain point because Hutchinson is actually turning the corner. If he had rode Hutchinson out of there and basically pushed him out of the pocket, that would mean that either Jameis Winston's feet are up here and Hutchinson's left foot is going to be back on the 38, or Winston's foot is still in this location and the right tackle rides him out of there and gets him back, maybe to the 40. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. That is not the dynamic that occurred here, in my opinion. This is just Aidan Hutchinson being a better football player in the 65th or 66th minute than the right tackle was. Hutchinson now has 8.5 sacks, I think 24 quarterback hits, through 11 games this year. Of course, there was 2 sacks taken away earlier this season by penalty on a teammate, and I think one that got taken back for a penalty on himself. So potentially 3 more sacks could be added to his ledger if some of those penalty situations didn't occur. Do I think he's having a dominant season like some of the other edge defenders across the NFL? No, I wouldn't put him in the top 4 or 5 category right now. I will say this. For the Lions fans who are complaining about Aidan Hutchinson, where's your complaint about the roster configuration that doesn't give you adequate help on the other side as an edge defender to rush the passer? Is Aidan Hutchinson going to make the All-Pro team for 2025? No, he's not in that category with some of the best guys in the league, a Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, whoever. And I don't even know what Parsons' stats are leading into this Thanksgiving Day game. My point here is I think it's a little bit misguided to focus on Hutchinson solely. Is he playing good enough for you? Maybe, maybe not. He is for me. I think he needs help on the other side. I think that you could have done a better job in the draft this past year, actually grabbing an edge defender before the 6th round in a draft that was rich on edge defenders. Having said that, some of the rookies haven't really had an impact across the NFL, so maybe Brad Holmes and those guys will be proven correct in their analysis and their choices that they made. I had a different opinion coming in, and I still kind of do, to be honest with you. I think Aidan Hutchinson is having a solid season in 2025. I'm looking at a guy projected to make 12 to 13 sacks, get to 30, 32 quarterback hits, right in line with his 2023 numbers. In any case, you may have, a different opinion than my own. Feel free to let me know in the comment section. Number 1, I think he acquitted himself well in this game, even though the right tackle for the Giants did play better than I expected for a guy who, A, can hardly get out of his stance at times, and B, someone who really doesn't bother to play football longer than 2.8 or 3 seconds at a time. If you guys think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Aidan Hutchinson from the Week 12 win over the Giants, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.